I've seen a lot of mixed reactions with Bioshock 2. Some say it was good, others say the first game was way better. Having played it myself, I think it's not bad at all. Bioshock 2 is a 2010 game developed and published by 2K. The story of the game takes place 8 years after Bioshock 1, with the protagonist being a big daddy named Subject Delta. One day, his little sister Eleanor is taken away by Sophia Lamb, who claims that she is her mother. She makes Subject Delta kill himself, and the game goes on a 10-year time skip. Delta is then revived and told that he must reunite with Eleanor or else his heart will literally stop beating. Unsurprisingly, the game didn't hook me in like the first time I entered Rapture. And that's not just because I played Bioshock 1 recently. The biggest draw of the first game was all the mystery that surrounded the world and its characters. Entering Bioshock 2 with that knowledge left me with more familiarity and confidence. So it's definitely not a bad thing. Playing as a big daddy definitely helps with the confidence part though. Sadly, even though you're a big daddy in this one, you're still the protagonist. Which means that you won't start off extremely powerful. You'll have to get more weapons, powers, and you'll need to upgrade your existing gear and power to the people stations just like Bioshock 1's main character. Most of the gameplay is very similar to its predecessor, so I'll briefly go through the not-so-new features. Audio diaries are once again scattered around, serving as the main way of learning about the characters and events in the game. Now, story-wise, I was much more invested in Bioshock 1. Though their different ideals were interesting to see, I found Andrew Ryan to be a far better antagonist than Sophia Lamb. She just couldn't hold my attention as much as he did. There's also a few familiar faces from the previous game, but you get introduced to a lot of the new cast. I don't find all of them that memorable, but I enjoyed listening to their stories. Hacking is a big part of the game once again. The difference is, now you can hack things in real time. I loved how they improved on this because it doesn't take you out of the game anymore every time you have to hack into everything. Sure, I've probably gotten zapped about 100 times while triggering multiple security alarms during my playthrough, but it sure beats those pipe mini-puzzles in Bioshock 1. Now there are way more consumable items used to recover health and EVE in the game, from potted meat to lots and lots of alcohol. I tend to mindlessly mash the button to pick up things from every corner of the room, so there were a lot of instances where I accidentally drank like 5 bottles of whiskey. It's not fun. So, on to more important things about the environment. I liked how the underwater city was portrayed this time around. Yeah, it's the same old Rapture, but it's cool how the rapid deterioration of the city can be seen throughout the game. It makes it more realistic since everyone's all spliced up and practically nobody is around to maintain the buildings and all those neon signs. Many of the weapons from the original Bioshock are back, with the addition of the famous Big Daddy drill. Power-ups and passive abilities are also back through plasmids and tonics. But the best part is the ability to dual-wield weapons and plasmids. Even though it's a simple change, it makes such a big difference when it comes to combat. Fights feel more fast-paced because you no longer have to switch back and forth between weapons and plasmids. So apart from being a versatile big daddy, you can adopt your own little sister. Well, more like steal another big daddy's little sister after you brutally murder one in front of them. It's still a neat little mechanic though. I enjoyed protecting the girls as they extracted Adam from the bodies, and it's all thanks to the various ways that you can set up your defenses. If you manage to do it right, splicers won't be able to come close to your gatherer. There's an option to once again harvest them, but if you're feeling extra evil, you can adopt a little sister, make her gather as much Adam for you, and then harvest her. I didn't do that myself though, but I like how the game expands on the moral choices regarding little sisters and the few characters that you encounter. It provides a slight variety from Bioshock 1's straightforward harvest or save little sisters. I couldn't help but feel anxious when I've saved the last little sister in an area, and it's all because of the big sisters. Seriously, those things make big daddies seem cute and cuddly. It also doesn't help that the music playing when they come out sounds like it came straight out of a horror movie. But just like the other enemies in the game, they become easier to deal with once you've gotten stronger and formed better strategies. So before I talk about the DLC, I'll be talking about the last quarter of the game here. Skip to that timestamp if you don't want spoilers. While I wasn't too fond of the last quarter of the game, I thought it was really cool how you can fight alongside Eleanor's big sister form. What I don't get is why you have to use a plasmid to summon her. I feel like it would have made more sense to make her a permanent party member for the rest of the game. Though I guess it kinda makes sense in a gameplay perspective, so that she becomes an optional partner for other players. I knew the game was close to ending by the time her plasmid was introduced, so I just kept summoning her until I reached the end. It's kinda funny how I went from being terrified of my first big sister encounter to being glad that I have an ally. She was so OP that I enjoyed watching her go on a rampage. I was even preoccupied with looting in Sinclair's boss battle at one point that I didn't realize she chased the man and murdered him off screen.
So long, kid.
Sinclair is dead, Father. I'm so sorry.
Move, Sigma. It knew you would be here.
Okay, so I'm normally hesitant when it comes to playing DLCs in games that claim to provide a whole new story, because they're often not that good. Despite that, I dived straight into Bioshock 2's 2011 DLC, Minerva's Den. The protagonist of Minerva's Den is a big daddy called Subject Sigma, who has to help a man named Charles Milton Porter retrieve codes from a supercomputer called the Thinker, all while overcoming the challenges that the antagonist, Reed Wall, places on them. The new ion laser weapon in the game was a surprise, which fired a sort of laser beam at enemies. I didn't use it as much as all the other weapons, but it's not because it was bad. I just preferred using the other guns. What I did like was the thermal cell ammo that ignited enemies, and the burst cell type. I also used gravity well a lot. It's like a magnetic vortex that bursts on impact and pulls enemies in. It wasn't the flashiest new plasmid, but it was useful when I wanted to pull enemies in so I could damage them easily. It's great how the game doesn't hold your hand though. It assumes that you have enough experience with Bioshock, and it gives you options to experiment in each level. Like little sisters are optional here, but you can save or harvest them if you want more powers. The main thing that I love about Minerva's Den is it feels like an entirely new game by itself. It felt like the devs brought out the best out of Bioshock 1's story and Bioshock 2's gameplay, creating a new Bioshock experience that's really, really good. It only has a few new characters, but they're quite outstanding, especially Porter. I felt for the guy, and I'm glad that he didn't get an ending that's too tragic. I also love how the game manages to explain certain things about the world of Rapture, while concluding the plot after an emotional revelation that gives a nice farewell to the series. For now. I still need to play Burial at Sea, and I have no idea how that game's story is going to affect everything. So the only frustration that I had when I played the PC remaster were the crashes. It mostly happened during combat, but there were also issues when I minimized the game to tweak my recording software's settings. I ended up being paranoid about the game crashing because there's nothing more annoying than playing through the same section all over again. I ended up saving whenever I thought I made some notable progress in the game, and sometimes after running to the next room. You know, just in case. So while Bioshock 2 took me 15 hours to finish, Minerva's Den took about 4 to 5 hours. 2 is not my favorite Bioshock game because I found the story not that interesting. But I had a lot of fun with the game, especially with its refined gameplay and the little sisters. It gave a first-hand look at the relationship of a tin daddy and their gatherer, while giving it a twist that shows what a deep bond is like between the two. Minerva's Den, on the other hand, provides an incredible Bioshock experience in story, gameplay, and characters, despite being shorter and smaller. Let me know what you all thought about the video. So my Bioshock playthrough is ending. I'm very curious how Burial at Sea will connect all of the games, so yeah. Also, to all of those who were waiting for this video last week, I'm sorry for the delay and thank you for being patient. I was supposed to finish this up last weekend, but then I managed to catch what I thought was just a really bad flu. Turns out it was a mild case of pneumonia. I unknowingly had that throughout the week while I juggled through getting sufficient rest, working on this video bit by bit, and managing my day at uni. The worst part wasn't just how sluggish I felt throughout the day, but my throat too. I couldn't record the voiceover for Minerva's Den, because on some days I was losing my voice and on others I just sounded way too off compared to the rest of the video. I only found out like 2 days ago, so I'm still recovering from it right now. Kinda crazy how much can happen in just the span of a few days. Oh well, hope I'll see you guys in my next video.